Ladies and gentlemen, fellas, welcome back to the channel and the podcast. We're going to give you a betting picks video, the picks that I made for each of these two games, and we have 4 total bets, including over-unders and the spread picks for the conference championship Sunday. Somebody's going to get smacked around and find themselves in the golf course, and the other people going to get smacked around and find themselves in the motherfucking Super Bowl. So what I'm here to do for you is to provide you with the information, educate you, inform you all, you beautiful people, you fellas, everybody out there right now. We're going to be putting up some stuff on the screen, some analysis, parts of the analysis that I use to be making my wagers, and we're going to be reviewing those throughout this show, starting with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the first game, the NFC Championship, 3 p.m. start, 3:05 p.m. start, championship game for the NFC, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Green Bay Packers, a rematch from earlier this season where Packers got out early, right? 2-score lead, and then Aaron Rodgers threw a pick 6, and then Aaron Rodgers threw another interception that was, I think, tipped off of behind Devontae Adams, picked off and almost returned for an interception as well, and after that, it was all downhill as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did whatever they wanted. Rob Gronkowski, at that point, that was his best game of the season, arguably still his best game of the season for 4 quarters of football. And since then, these teams have been completely different. The Packers' defense and secondary has gotten a lot better, arguably a top 5 secondary in the NFL right now. Their offense, arguably the number one passing offense, at least in the NFL, if you're just looking at that, with the MVP on their team. And on the Buccaneers side, they've dealt with some injuries. Vita Vea is off the IR, but I don't know, and I doubt he'll be playing this week. He has 21 days to rejoin the team. I assume if they go to the Super Bowl, there's a much better chance he plays in that game. They've had injuries in their secondary throughout times this year, whether that be Jamel Dean, Carlton Davis getting nicked up, and just in general, the defense has just flundered because of that. It has not been the same dominant unit that we saw the first 6 to 8 weeks of the season. So totally different environment now, as these teams are going to be built different, and now they're coming to Lambeau Field where it's going to be 20 degrees or so. So what side am I on in this one? Well, I currently have the Green Bay Packers at -3, and I'm currently taking the over 51, and let me tell you why. So when we get to this point in the season, you're rarely going to see a bad team, so a lot of these rankings are going to be good, right? So the Green Bay Packers rank 3rd in yards per play on offense, an efficiency metric that just shows how efficient their offense is. That's good. Well, Tampa Bay, I mean, they're here at this point. They're number 7 in that department. Pretty damn good. Tampa Bay on defense is number 7 in terms of yards per play allowed, so they're very efficient defense, and the Packers have been getting better, especially in that run game, that run-stop defense. They're number 13 overall. Now, the Packers rank dead last in pace, so this is going to factor a lot more if you're trying to just, in terms of opportunities for more possessions, for back doors if you're Tampa Bay, opportunities mainly for the total in this game. On the flip side of that one, Tampa Bay ranks 9th overall, so the pace is definitely going to slow it down, but it's funny because this is a team that is right now top 2 in overall scoring per game, and the reason why they're able to do that with a slow pace is because how damn efficient they've been on offense, whether it's been Aaron Rodgers, just fantastic MVP type season, or their overall offense, again, being 3rd in yards per play this year. So you get Tampa Bay's number 1 overall scoring offense when you factor in the running game against Green Bay's number 8 defense. 2 terrible special teams units. Both of them are arguably bottom 3 in the NFL. You have the top 2 ranked passing offense in this game, and Green Bay is +7 in turnover differential, while Tampa Bay is +8. They're very similar teams is what I can say right now. Now, why do I like the Packers -3? Well, a couple reasons. There's going to be a negative 9% pass blocking advantage for Tom Brady in this one. And Green Bay's pressure rate over the second half of the year, because Preston Smith has started to come on a little bit more, and Rashawn Gary is taking leaps and bounds forward this year as he has gotten completely into shape and is a totally different player than Rashawn Gary in the past years as the Packers, somebody that they took a risk on with an injury out of college a couple of years back as a top 15 overall pick. He's been fantastic. Green Bay ranks now 11th overall in pressure. And Brady, when he faces pressure this year, again, a negative pass blocking advantage means that more times than not likely to face pressure than on average in this game. He ranks 29th when faced with pressure this year, and that equates to a 33.7% overall completion percentage under pressure. Now, Green Bay's secondary ranks 3rd overall in the NFL to close out the season, and it's only been good in their one playoff game against the Rams as well this year, so you can force some coverage sacks there as well, whether it's Jair Alexander. Chandon Sullivan has been fine for them in the slot. Their one weak point is Kevin King. They actually just signed, who got cut, I believe, by the Baltimore Ravens, Tremont Williams, who now is the 3rd member that is on this Packers team. Aaron Rodgers, the kicker Mason Crosby, now Tremont Williams, the 3 members, unless I'm missing somebody, the 3 members from the 2010 championship team, where Tremont Williams was a big piece of that, had a pick 6 against Atlanta in the divisional round for that team, and he had a pretty good Super Bowl as well. Tremont Williams now rejoins this team. It's probably a depth piece, but I'm going to be honest with you. Yes, Tremont Williams is an old man, but it's not that much like Kevin King is playing that great. A bottom 10 cornerback so far this season is Mr. Kevin King. Also worth pointing out that Ted Thompson actually just died today. Rest in peace, Ted Thompson. He was the former general manager. He was still very much so involved with the team as recent as a couple of years ago before Brian Gutenhurst ended up taking over this team. So there's another thing to just keep in mind when you're talking about the emotional state of this team. Now, how that affects a team, I'm not going to be ignorant enough to try and tell you how that affects a team, let alone just an individual group of men, one by one, their independent relationships. I'm not going to to try and judge if that's going to fire up this team or judge if that's going to make them all mourn and not play as well, right? It's just at least worth noting so people can know that that is at least another factor out there if you're trying to build some sort of narratives. Now, Mike Evans and Antonio Brown's, their props are something to look at, and their matchups are something to look at. I think Antonio Brown sees a lot of Jair Alexander just in terms of height. Normally, Mike Evans, a bigger receiver, you're going to be seeing Jair Alexander take a smaller receiver whenever he can, especially if they're equally matched or at least have, both decent receivers like Antonio Brown and Mike Evans are. Which means that Mike Evans probably sees a lot of Kevin King, and that's a great matchup because Kevin King is going to be a positive 23% matchup for Mike Evans against King. King, again, a bottom 10 cornerback so far this year, as you can see on the screen right now. So that's something to keep in mind, whether you're looking at just individual props for Mike Evans or if you're just trying to get an idea of where there can be some matchup advantages for Tampa Bay if you're trying to be betting this game. Now, Antonio Brown not going to see 100% Jair Alexander. It might only be 65, 70%, so he'll also see some Kevin King. Assuming that you still see Chris Godwin remaining in the slot often, he'll have a nice matchup against Chandon Sullivan. So those are kind of the matchups for Tampa Bay and where they'll have their advantages, mainly against Kevin King, and I suspect that will be Mike Evans. Now, the Packers' offensive line has been staying strong despite the injuries, right? You had David Bakhtiari, the arguably best offensive lineman and really tackle in the NFL, highest paid of all time left tackle, in practice tear his ACL about a month ago now, and they were fine. They finished out the season fine. Last week they were fine. I get it. It was just a 50, or to be exact, 54% snap count. Aaron Donald out there playing banged up, but this was still a top pressure unit in the NFL last week, and Aaron Rodgers was not knocked down. He was not sacked, and he was touched just one time, and it was kind of just a little bit of a pat, a little shove. That's all he had. His jersey was completely clean last week. This pass blocking unit ranks number 2 overall. Again, Bakhtiari's injury is going to not really be weighed all the way into that as he was there for much of the season, but their run blocking unit, number 6. No Bakhtiari against the number 1 pass rush last week, yet again, was not a big deal. 0 times on dropbacks was Rodgers either knocked down or sacked, so it's still going to be a nice matchup for them. And the last time that these teams played, it seemed like Rodgers was getting, whether it was Ndamukong Suh, Devin White, whoever it was, there was pressure coming at all times. That will lead to interceptions like you saw in that game, and will just lead to not having much time downfield. Now, some other things to point out about that game earlier on in the season. No Allen Lazard at that point, was still recovering from a surgery, I believe the week or two before that, a core muscle injury. Devontae Adams was returning that week as well, and he was fine. 6 catches on 10 targets for 66 yards, just decent, but for Devontae Adams standards, not a good game. His worst of the year, arguably. And David Bakhtiari actually left that game pretty early, so that's something else to keep in mind. They didn't have Bakhtiari then, and they had to kind of adjust for it on the fly. Now they've had a month to prepare for this, and it seems like there's not that much issues because you have a all-pro, in my opinion, on that line right now in Elkton Jenkins. You have Billy Turner still on that line. You have a Pro Bowler and all-pro in Corey Linsley at center. So this is still a loaded offensive line right now that probably doesn't get the credit that it deserves. And so far, we've seen Tom Brady face really good defenses. The Redskins, and he was relatively rough in that game. Then we got to see him last week look even rougher, 6 yards per attempt against a good Saints defense. This might be the easiest defense he faces this year, but, it's still the number 11 pass rush. It's still the number 3 overall secondary, so number 13 overall yards per play allowed defense. So this is still a quality borderline top 10, and in some metrics, definitely top 10 defense he's going to be facing. 54% completion percentage last week, again, just 6 yards per attempt. Brady does not look crisp right now. Now, that could be scary because maybe they still have one big game in the chamber to get to the Super Bowl, this Tampa Bay team. Loaded with talent on both sides of the ball, and the receivers to actually get it done against this Packers team if their defense can slow Aaron Rodgers down. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. We're taking Green Bay -3 at this point. I think that these games are close to coin flips, but I'm fine to be taking, if you want to just take the money line on Green Bay, I don't want to pay that much in terms of the vig and the juice, so I'll just go with the -3 there. That's the one that I feel comfortable about through the 2 games in terms of a spread pick. And then because a lot of those reasons already laid out, there's another reason for me to want to be taking the over. Now, I want to let you all know about the sponsor of today's show, which is going to be Viget. Now, Viget is a sponsor of the show. You can see the logo up above. What Viget is basically Twitter for sports betting. So what does that mean, Sal? Well, you open it up. It's down below, totally free. Viget in the App Store today, totally free to download. And everybody in there is talking about their sports betting picks. It's basically a Twitter for sports betting without that the toxicity of Twitter that you normally get from people talking about politics or whatever other dumb shit that every single person on there just wants to have an argument. Well, when you are with like-minded people who just want to be getting help, talking about sports betting advice, it's a totally different atmosphere, and it's just honestly a more mellow atmosphere. Now, not only is it just a Twitter side of it, there's a lot of information on there to help you with some obscure bets that you might not have as much info on, or maybe some depth charts and injury reports you want to be looking at. All that stuff can be found in the app. And then there's a free online sports book, so be sure to check out Viget, the free online sports book. If you use the promo code SAL, you will get 1,000 VIG coins when you download the app. Those VIG coins can be used on the free online sports books, used just like dollars in terms of wagering on some games and betting on some games. And if you end up winning the bets, you can cash them out for some prizes, including Amazon gift cards. So check it out down below right now. Viget, the proud sponsor of the Conference Championship Sunday video. So now let's close this one up, which you can see we can pull it up right now with the Bills and the Chiefs game. And you have some question marks as I record this right now on Thursday evening on Patrick Mahomes. He's been practicing him in a limited fashion. He has not yet cleared the concussion protocol, but the expectation is that he will. Concussions are a tricky thing. I, in the past, have had a concussion for over a year, and yeah, that sucked. So I don't think this is the same significance significance of Patrick Mahomes, but these things linger and they can get extreme. So don't be shocked if he somehow doesn't play in this game. But everything is leaning towards the fact that he's going to be playing. I'm sure the concussion protocol specialists are going to get a little bit of a tip from the league, or maybe just feel some pressure to, take his word a little bit stronger, which is not something that I would personally recommend going through stuff like this. But reality is reality in terms of trying to play for the Super Bowl with the best player in the NFL on the field. So they're 3-point favorites, and actually I'm going to be taking Buffalo in this one. And this one's more difficult, right? Because I can see both sides of this one. I think that these teams are pretty much a coin flip at this point. I think that a lot of the people want to be betting the Chiefs because of Patrick Mahomes, and I can't really disagree with that stance. Like, if you want to just simplify your bet to, I want to be betting Patrick Mahomes or the Chiefs because of Patrick Mahomes, it's already kind of built into that line. And I think this concussion and plus the toe injury, the main injury that's going to be lingering if he's actually out there, we saw that affect him in the last game, really affecting his mobility and pocket awareness because he's going up against a good pass rush in this game. I think that's the one thing that can concern you a little bit, but this is a good Buffalo team. This is a damn good Buffalo team. So if I think that these teams are pretty evenly matched and maybe more so closer to a coin flip than we're getting out of this line, I'll just be taking the plus during the points. If you want to be going Buffalo with the money line, I think you can do that as well. This is close. I rarely ever bet against Patrick Mahomes. These guys like Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, but this is going to be such a public bet in this game on the Kansas City Chiefs. A lot of people have Super Bowl futures on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A lot of people like betting Tom Brady. So I think that line's a little bit more secure in terms of that's the actual line you should be seeing, -3 or -3.5, depending on the side of the bet you want to be on. Whereas I think all the public money, and yes, people like the Bills, but all the public money at the end of the day, the majority of it is going to be coming in on Kansas City. So I'm trying to leverage that a little bit. I like the Bills at +3. I think you're getting enough out of this team. You have 2 top 5 yards per attempt offenses like you can see on the screen right now. Kansas City on defense, and both of them are basically similar in defense. 17th is Kansas City in yards per play allowed, and Buffalo is 15th in yards per play allowed. Now in pace, Buffalo very slow, 28th overall. They can slow the pace of this game down, which is why the other bet I have this week, you can see it on the screen right now, is the under 54. So give me the under in this game and the Bills +3. Kansas City ranks 13th in pace, while the Buffalo Bills rank 28th in pace. Now Kansas City's passing offense is number 5, and the Bills secondary top 10 unit, number 9 overall. Again, usually some pretty damn good and sound all-around teams are going to be making it this far. Now, Buffalo on offense, actually a better passing offense. You have 4 of the top 5 passing offenses, so expect a lot of points and a lot of fun this weekend. Buffalo 4th in passing offense against Kansas City's number 19th overall secondary. Kansas City ended the season +6 in turnover differential, while Buffalo was +4. Now, here's some of the reasons why, and a couple of reasons why I really like Buffalo, or not really like them, but just enough to be taking the points. Again, I think this line should be closer to a coin flip. If I knew 100% that Patrick Mahomes didn't have this toe injury and the mobility would be there, I'd be on the Chiefs at -3 because I think that line would probably be closer to like a -4.5, but it doesn't seem like it, and you saw that in the last game, that this mobility is probably not going to be coming back all that quickly in just one game's time. Now, the limited mobility on Patrick Mahomes is a concern, but last week before leaving with the concussion, he led all quarterbacks outside of Jameis's, one pass for 56 yards. He led all quarterbacks in 8.5 yards per attempt, and he had a 70% completion percentage. Only Jared Goff's short passing game was higher at 77% in the divisional round. And then finally, just Josh Allen's time to play. And what I mean by time to play is just like he's going to have time to throw the ball. Kansas City is bottom 10 in pass rush so far this season, and what you're getting out of Josh Allen, the number 4 clean pocket passing quarterback, and he has his mobility. He's not dealing with injuries. That's a major upside here. Both of these teams probably not going to run the ball, right? Zach Moss not likely to return. Devin Singletary out there, not really seeing touches. He has like 10 touches on the ground in the playoffs so far through 2 games. Your Clyde Edwards-Helaire should be returning this week. I don't expect them to run the ball all that much, so Kansas City either. These are 2 teams that have decent run offenses on a per-play basis because, their passing games are setting up the run a lot more, but they're not teams that love to run the ball. Both are bottom half of the league in terms of how many running plays per game that they're playing and they're calling, so that could be something that can maybe lean towards the over if you're somebody that wants to make a narrative around betting the over in this one. If there's just going to be more passing plays, well, when they're completed, they're downfield normally, and you're just picking up more chunks, right? Or at least 10 yards, more passing plays on average. Your average pass is going to go more than your average run, just on average in the NFL throughout not just this year, but NFL history, dating back at least for the last 10 years. And then incompletions in that regard will stop the clock. So you can say that it can be an overall over game for over 54 in that one. I'm almost talking myself into the over 54 at this point. If you wanted to bet the over, I would bet the over 53.5 at FanDuel or bet MGM as of my recording of this right now. But I'm still going to stick with the under 54. Hate rooting for unders, but that's just where I get the lean on this one right now. A lot of the public action is also on the over 54, so I'll just be fading the public to an extent on that one. So there's not much more to say. I know it's a somewhat shorter video for the betting picks this week because there's only 2 games. And then we just have the Super Bowl, and then we can probably transition the show into a PGA type of a show since there's no XFL this year. So to recap, the NFC Championship game, give me the Packers -3 and the over 51.5. Make sure you're betting that at the right spots. It's 51.5 as of right now everywhere, as you can see on the screen behind me right now. But make sure you get the -3 if you want to be tailing that side of it. Otherwise, get the +3.5 on Tampa Bay. +3.5 can be found on DraftKings DraftKings and BetMGM as of this recording, and Unibet. And then for the AFC Championship, give me the Bills +3. That feels honestly terrible. Like if you're on Kansas City -3, fine. Like it just feels terrible to be on the opposite side of Patrick Mahomes, to be honest with you. And I like him a lot and his team in DFS, but DFS, I don't care if you win or not. But let's take the Bills +3 here. I'm not sold that the Bills actually win this game, but if you're going to be giving me two teams that I think are pretty evenly matched, just give me the points to go along with it. Honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if the Chiefs win and the Bills are able to cover this one. That's how close I think this game is actually going to play out. Two sound offenses and two similar defenses in terms of being middle of the pack defenses in their own rights. And then we will close out the video with the under 54. So be sure to check out Viget, the sponsor of the show. Any bets that you make throughout the rest of January, whoever has the most coins in our betting league, anybody that uses the code SAL and joins the betting league in the betting league form, it's just a little thing at the bottom of the screen that you can click betting leagues. We'll have a chance to win some free merch from this channel. So thank you so much for tuning into the video. Like and subscribe before you go. Viget down below, the code SAL, S-A-L, lets you know you came from me and gives you 1,000 Vig coins to use in the free sportsbook to be able to potentially win some merch and or Amazon gift cards. Thank you so much. You all rock, and I'll see you in the next one. Check out the rest of the content on this channel. We have an MMA video out for the UFC 257. Hopefully you're watching this before the result of those fights, right? But we have an MMA betting and DFS video. We will be having NBA DFS videos out pretty often in live streams on this channel, PGA DFS and betting videos. So lots to do here at the Sal Vetcher YouTube channel. Appreciate you all in advance. Have a great rest of your day, everybody, and I'll see you in the next one.